So I want to start today with a hypothetical question, and it's a bit of a trap. So be careful. If I offered you a magic button, let's call it the reset button, and if you pressed it, you would wake up tomorrow morning with zero baggage, no trauma, no grudges, no insecurities, just pure, unadulterated happiness. Would you press it?
That's the dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think 99% of people would smash that button before you even finish the sentence.
You would think so. You
Yeah.
absolutely would. But the book we are deep diving into today argues the exact opposite.
Yeah.
It argues that if we are being brutally honest with ourselves, most of us would leave that button completely alone. We would actually choose to keep our unhappiness.
It's such a provocative stance, and
Mhm.
it's really the gateway into one of the most confronting books I've read in years. We are talking about The Courage to be Disliked by Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitaka Koga.
And before you, our listeners, roll your eyes and think, oh, great, another self-help book telling me to just think positive. We need to be really clear. This is not that. This is, well, it's closer to philosophy than self-help, really. It's all based on the work of Alfred Adler.
The Unknown Third Giant. It's a great way to put it. Everyone knows Freud and Jung. I mean, they completely dominated the 20th century. But Adler was the third pillar of that era, and in so many ways, his ideas were like decades ahead of his time. While Freud was looking backward, obsessing over the dark basement of the unconscious, Adler was looking forward.
And the structure of this book is so unique, too. It's not a lecture. It's not a textbook. It's a narrative dialogue, almost like a play. You have this youth who is cynical, angry, totally dissatisfied with his life, and he goes to visit this eccentric philosopher who lives on the outskirts of town. And the youth's whole goal is basically to tear the old man's arguments apart.
Which is, I mean, it's a brilliant device for us because the youth asks the exact questions that you, the reader, are screaming at the page. He's skeptical, he thinks the world is this chaotic, unfair mess, and the philosopher just sits there and calmly claims that the world is astonishingly simple, and that happiness is instantly accessible to anyone, right now.
That's the hook right there. Happiness is instantly accessible. When I read that, my first thought was, okay, this guy is selling snake oil. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. If happiness is so easy, why is almost everyone so miserable?
That is exactly the first question the youth asks, and the answer requires us to, well, to dismantle, and I mean really tear down, the way we view reality itself. And all starts with this core concept of subjectivity.
The well-water metaphor.
Exactly. It's a classic Adlerian starting point. So imagine a well. The water underground is pretty consistent, right? It stays at about 60 degrees Fahrenheit summer or winter. That is the objective fact, the number on the thermometer.
Like 60 degrees. Got it. That's reality.
But if you drink that water in the middle of a scorching hot August afternoon, how does it feel?
Oh, it feels freezing. It's incredibly refreshing. The best thing ever.
Exactly. Now, fast forward 6 months. It's January. It's snowing outside.
Yeah.
You pull up that same bucket of water. Same 60 degrees. How does it feel now?
It feels lukewarm.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little bit warm compared to the freezing air.
The water hasn't changed one bit. The objective reality is identical. But your experience of it, your subjective reality, is completely different. Adler's whole point is that we do not live in an objective world. We live in a subjective world that we ourselves have given meaning to. You can't change the temperature of the water, you can't change the facts of your past or the state of the world, but you can change the filter. You can change the glasses through which you experience it.
See, that sounds empowering on the surface. Change your perspective, change your life. It's a nice thought. But then the book takes a really hard left turn into something that I think is going to upset a lot of people.
I know exactly where you're going with this.
The denial of trauma. The book explicitly states, trauma does not exist. Now, we have to pause here. We really do, because when I read that line, I actually got angry. It feels so incredibly dismissive. For someone who has suffered abuse or war or terrible accident, to tell them trauma doesn't exist sounds like gaslighting. It sounds like you're saying it's all in your head.
It is, without a doubt, the most controversial point in all of Adlerian psychology. And the youth in the book reacts exactly the same way. He's furious. But we have to be incredibly precise about what Adler is actually denying. He is not denying that tragic, horrible things happen. He is not denying that people suffer immense pain from those events.
So what is he denying then?
He is denying determinism.
Yeah.
He's launching a full-scale attack on the entire framework of Freudian etiology.
Etiology. Okay, break that down. That's the study of causation, right? Cause and effect.
Yes. Cause and effect. The idea that the past determines the present, it's the standard narrative we all use. I was bullied as a child, cause A, therefore I am socially anxious as an adult, effect B. It seems logical. It even seems scientific.
It feels like common sense. I mean, of course, we are the sum of our experiences. How could we not be?
Adler says that is a lie, a convenient lie. He argues that if we accept etiology, if we accept that A causes B, then we are basically saying that our lives are fixed scripts. If A always leads to B, then we have no free will. We're just machines reacting to past inputs. If your past determines your future, then you are completely powerless.
Okay, so if it's not cause and effect, what is it? Because I definitely feel the weight of my past. We all do.
Adler proposes this radical shift to teleology. This is the study of purposes and goals. So etiology looks backward for a cause. Teleology looks forward to a goal. Adler's big claim is that we are not pushed by the past, we are pulled by the future. We are pulled by a goal that we have set for ourselves, usually unconsciously.
Can you give me a concrete example?
Mm.
Because being pulled by a goal sounds a bit abstract when you're dealing with something as real as, say, crippling anxiety.
Absolutely. Let's use the main example from the book, The Recluse. The youth has a friend who has shut himself in his room for years. He refuses to go out. If he even tries to step outside the door, he gets violent palpitations, he starts shaking, he can't breathe.
Right. And the standard view, the etiological Freudian view would be, this poor guy has some kind of trauma. He was hurt in the past, maybe bullied or abused, and that damage is causing the anxiety that keeps him inside.
Exactly. It frames him as a victim. It says, it's not his fault the past is doing this to him. It sounds compassionate, and it's what most therapists would say.
But Adler disagrees.
Adler completely flips the timeline. He doesn't ask what caused this. He asks, what is the goal? That a philosopher argues that this man has a goal, and the goal is, I do not want to go out. Maybe he's afraid of rejection. Maybe he doesn't want to get a job. Maybe he wants his parents to worry about him and take care of him forever. The reason doesn't matter as much as the goal.
Okay, so his goal is just to stay in his room.
Exactly, but he can't just admit that. He can't say, I'm choosing to stay inside because I'm scared. His pride won't let him. So in order to achieve the goal of staying inside, his mind manufactures the anxiety. He creates the palpitations. The symptoms are 100% real. They aren't faked. But they are tools created to achieve the goal of not going out.
Whoa, okay. That is a very hard pill to swallow. You're saying he is essentially inducing his own panic attack to give himself a medically valid excuse to stay in his pajamas.
Unconsciously, yes. Think about the utility of it. As long as he has these symptoms, he is sick. He gets sympathy. He's excused from all societal expectations. He doesn't have to face the world. The moment he is cured, he has to go out into that scary world and risk being judged, risk failing. So for his purposes, the trauma becomes necessary. He's using his past experiences.
We make out of our experiences whatever suits our purposes. That's the quote from the book. And it just puts a massive, almost crushing amount of responsibility on the individual. It implies that on some level, we're actively choosing our own suffering.
It absolutely does. And that's why the book says we lack the courage to be happy. Because if I can say I am this way because of my abusive father, then I'm innocent. I'm a victim. It's not my fault. But if the truth is I am this way because I am choosing to use my past as an excuse to avoid intimacy, then it's all on me. And that is terrifying.
It extends to emotions too, doesn't it? The book really attacks the idea of uncontrollable anger.
Oh, the angry youth story. This is a classic, and it's so clear.
Right, the youth talks about being in a cafe, and a waiter accidentally spills coffee all over his brand new jacket. And he's, I lost it. I couldn't help it. The anger just exploded out of me. It was reflex.
And the philosopher just completely destroys that argument with the phone call analogy. I love this because we've all seen it happen. Imagine a mother screaming at her daughter. She is red in the face, veins are popping, she's screaming at the absolute top of her lungs. She is in a state of pure, what looks like uncontrollable rage.
I can picture it perfectly. I think I've been that mother.
Right. Suddenly the phone rings. It's the old landline. She picks it up. On the other end, it's the daughter's school teacher. What happens to her voice instantly?
Oh, it's instant. She clears her throat. Her voice goes up an octave. It's all, hello. Oh, Mrs. Smith, so lovely to hear from you. Yes, she's right here.
She becomes the absolute epitome of politeness. She chats for 5 minutes, totally calm. Then she hangs up the phone. And what happens the second that receiver clicks back into the cradle?
She spins around and starts screaming at the daughter again right where she left off.
Exactly. Now, if anger were a biological reflex, like a sneeze or vomiting, could she have switched it off and on again just because the phone rang?
No.
Yeah.
No way. You can't stop a sneeze because your boss is calling. It just happens.
Right. And this proves that anger is a tool. It's something we pull out of our toolbox when it's convenient. The mother didn't scream because she was overcome with anger. She got angry so that she could scream. She used the emotion of anger as a weapon to intimidate the child and make her submit. It was a means to an end.
Man, that is convicting. I think everyone listening has probably done that at some point. You ramp up the volume not because you actually lost control, but because you want to win the argument.
It's about control. And this leads to the broader concept of lifestyle, which is Adler's word for what we would call personality or character. He believes that around age 10, we make a sort of fundamental decision about how we view the world and our place in it, a set of convictions like people are enemies, or the world is a dangerous place, or I am weak, or I must be perfect to be loved.
But if we chose it, can't we just unchoose it?
We can, but we don't. And this goes all the way back to your magic button question at the start. Why don't we change? Because the status quo, even if it's miserable, is familiar. It's predictable.
Better the devil you know than the devil you don't.
Precisely. If my lifestyle is being the gloomy guy who never gets a break, well, I know how to handle my Tuesdays. I know how people will react to me. I have a script. If I suddenly decide to be optimistic and outgoing, I have no idea what will happen. I might get rejected. I might fail spectacularly. The philosopher says we have a resolve not to change. We actually prefer the certainty of our misery over the uncertainty of joy.
So we are choosing our unhappiness because we're cowards.
That's a harsh way to put it, but yes, Adler would say we lack the courage.
Okay, let's shift gears to where this philosophy really hits the pavement, our relationships. Because the book makes another one of these absolute statements that just stop me in my tracks. All problems are interpersonal relationship problems.
All of them, without a single exception.
That feels like a stretch. I mean, really, what about my own internal worry? What about loneliness? What about just, feeling fat or ugly when I look in the mirror? That feels like it's about me, not someone else.
Adler asks you to conduct a thought experiment. Imagine you are the last person on Earth, the only human being in the entire universe. No one else exists.
Okay, I'm imagining it. It's a bit lonely.
But in that world, does loneliness even exist as a concept?
Well, initially, yes.
Right.
But if there's no one else to miss, I guess not. You can only feel lonely in relation to other people.
Exactly. What about your looks? If there is no one there to see you and no one to compare yourself to, would you care if you were tall or short, fat or thin? Would you care if you had a fancy watch or a beat-up car?
No, not at all. A fancy watch is only valuable because other people know it's valuable. Otherwise, it just tells time.
Right. Even the concept of money vanishes. If you are alone on a desert island, a pile of diamonds is just a pile of shiny rocks. Adler argues that every single negative emotion we have, inferiority, jealousy, vanity, anger, shame, is rooted in our friction with other people.
This brings up the idea of the inferiority complex. The book makes a really useful distinction between simply feeling inferior and having an inferiority complex.
Yes, and this is so important. A feeling of inferiority is actually healthy. It's normal. Adler even calls it the pursuit of superiority. But he doesn't mean it in an arrogant way. He just means the desire to improve. A toddler tries to stand up, falls down, feels their lack of ability, their inferiority, and it motivates them to try again. That tension is what moves us forward.
So striving is good, but the complex is bad.
The complex is when you start using that feeling as an excuse. I am uneducated, therefore I cannot succeed. Or I'm not attractive, therefore no one will ever love me. You're using that A implies B logic again. You're hiding behind your feeling of inferiority to avoid the risk of actually trying.
Yeah, and on the flip side of that, you have the superiority complex.
Which ironically is just another manifestation of the same thing. The person who brags constantly, the person obsessed with brand names and showing off their success, the person who always needs to be the loudest one in the room, they're actually terrified of their own inferiority.
There's that great line, the one who boasts does so only out of a feeling of inferiority.
Yes. If you were truly confident in your worth, you would have no need to announce it to everyone.
So how do we escape this trap, this constant comparing and competing? The book talks about shifting our entire worldview from competition to comrades.
This is the antidote to so much of our anxiety. Most of us, consciously or not, view life as a ladder or a race. For me to win, you have to lose. If you get a promotion at work, I feel that little pang of jealousy because it means, in my mind, that I'm falling behind.
It's the zero-sum game mentality. There's a limited amount of success to go around.
And it turns everyone into an enemy. You're constantly looking over your shoulder. You can never truly relax because the world is a dangerous place where everyone is just waiting for you to slip up. Adler suggests we completely dismantle that vertical hierarchy. Instead of a ladder, imagine a vast, flat plane. We are all walking on it. Some people are ahead, some are behind. But we aren't racing each other. We're just moving forward.
We're just walking our own path.
Exactly. And if you stop trying to beat people, you can start seeing them as comrades, fellow travelers. If your friend moves forward, you can genuinely celebrate them because their success doesn't diminish you in any way.
That sounds lovely, but let's be real.
Yeah.
Some people are not comrades. Some people are, well, they're jerks. The book goes into detail about power struggles. And when I was reading this section, I felt like it was a playbook for every single argument I've ever had with a partner or a family member.
It's startlingly accurate, isn't it?
Huh.
Adler says interpersonal conflict follows a predictable pattern. It starts with a simple disagreement. You forgot to take out the trash.
Standard stuff. Happens every day.
But if the other person feels attacked, they might retaliate. They might escalate. Well, you forgot to pay the gas bill. Now, the goal has shifted. It is no longer about the trash. It's about winning. It has become a power struggle.
And the moment you get angry, you've lost.
The moment you get angry, you have taken the bait. You have stepped into the ring. The other person's goal at that point is simply to provoke you, to prove that they can control your emotions.
So what's the move? Do we just roll over and let them win?
No. You refuse to play the game. You step down from the struggle. You say, okay, you might be right, and you disengage. And this is the key. Admitting fault in a power struggle or just walking away is not a defeat. It is the only way to preserve the relationship. Because if you don't...
It escalates to the next stage, revenge.
And the revenge stage is dark. If a child realizes they can't win the power struggle with their parents, maybe the parents are too strict, too controlling, the child switches tactics. They stop trying to win, they start trying to hurt.
Give me an example of what that looks like.
A teenager who suddenly starts shoplifting, or failing school on purpose, or in more extreme cases, engaging in self-harm.
But they're hurting themselves.
Yes, but the goal, remember, it's always about the goal, the teleology. The goal is to hurt the parent. I will ruin my own life just so I can watch you suffer as you watch me. It's the ultimate emotional weapon. And once a relationship enters the revenge stage, it is almost impossible to fix without outside help.
This is a perfect segue to what I think is the most practical, but also maybe the most difficult concept in the entire book, the separation of tasks. The philosopher literally calls it the stress killer.
This is the absolute core of Adlerian relationship theory. It's the practical application of everything we've talked about. He says that we have to realize that most of our stress, our frustration, our anger comes from one of two things. Either we are intruding on someone else's task, or we are letting them intrude on ours.
So how do we figure out whose task is whose? What's the test?
You ask the one diagnostic question. Who ultimately receives the result or the consequences of the choice being made?
Okay, let's apply this. The book uses the example of a child who won't do their homework.
A classic. The child won't study. The parents are furious. They nag. They hire tutors. They ground the child. They threaten. But whose task is studying?
Well, the parents feel like it's their task. It's their job to make sure their kid succeeds.
But who bears the ultimate consequence? If the child doesn't study, who sits in the classroom unable to answer the questions? Who gets the bad grade? Who has limited career options later in life?
The child does.
Then studying is the child's task. When the parent forces the child to study, they are trespassing. They are intruding on the child's task, and that intrusion is what creates the conflict.
But wait a second. As a parent or a friend or a partner, if I see someone I love walking towards a cliff, don't I have a duty to grab them and pull them back? If I just stand there and say, well, falling off that cliff is your task, so good luck with that, isn't that just negligence? It feels incredibly cold and unloving.
This is the most common objection, and it's a valid one. Adler isn't advocating for negligence or apathy. He's advocating for separation and respect. There's that old proverb, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Sure, everyone knows that one.
Most parents, and most of us in relationships, try to force the horse to drink. We shove the horse's head into the trough and hold it there. And what happens? The horse doesn't drink, and now the horse hates the water. And, more importantly, the horse hates you for trying to force it.
So what's the Adlerian alternative?
You lead them to the water. You say, here is the water. I am here for you. I believe this water is good for you, and I'll support you if you choose to drink. But whether you drink or not is ultimately up to you. That is respect. Forcing someone to change is not love. It's a form of control born from our own anxiety.
The book uses the metaphor of the Gordian knot for this.
Yes, the legend of the knot that was so complex no one could untie it with their fingers. Alexander the Great comes along, doesn't even try to untie it. He just draws his sword and cuts it in half.
Which is a pretty violent image.
It is. And the separation of tasks feels violent at first. It feels like you are cutting an emotional cord. But Adler argues that these enmeshed relationships, where my happiness depends on your success or your mood determines my mood, they aren't healthy. They are what he calls a life lie. We're using other people to validate ourselves or avoid our own tasks.
So if I'm stressed out because my boss is angry with me.
Okay, let's separate the tasks. Whose task is the boss's anger?
Well, if I did a bad job, it feels like it's my task to fix it.
No, doing a good job is your task. Whether the boss gets angry about it or likes it or is indifferent to it, that is his task. You cannot control his emotional reaction. If you are twisting yourself into knots trying to manage his mood, you are living his life, not yours.
And this leads us directly to the title of the book, The Courage to be Disliked. Because if I stop trying to manage everyone's moods, if I stop doing things just to please other people,
then some of those people are going to dislike you. It's inevitable.
And that is terrifying. I mean, we are social animals. We are hardwired to want to be part of the tribe, to be liked.
We are. Adler compares our desire for recognition to a rock rolling downhill. It is our natural inclination. It's emotional gravity. But he says that true freedom is pushing up against the tumbling self.
So freedom is consciously fighting that instinct.
Yes, think about it. If you are living solely to satisfy other people's expectations, whose life are you living?
And you're living their life.
Yeah.
You're discarding your own desires to fit into their mold.
Exactly. You become a slave to their approval.
But why is being disliked the specific mentioned here? Why isn't the book called The Courage to be Yourself?
Because being disliked is the cost of entry. It's the proof. If no one ever dislikes you, it probably means you aren't living your own life at all. You're just a chameleon. If someone dislikes you for a choice you made based on your own principles, that dislike is proof that you are living freely. You aren't doing it on purpose to be disliked. You aren't being a jerk just for the sake of it. But you are willing to accept dislike as a possible side effect of living your own truth.
Freedom is being disliked by other people. I really do need to put that on a sticky note. It completely shifts the perspective from, oh no, I did something wrong and they're mad at me, to I'm holding my own cards and their reaction is their task.
Precisely. When you fear being disliked, you are handing your cards to someone else and letting them play your hand for you.
Okay, but if we just go around separating tasks and not caring what people think of us, don't we risk becoming isolated, narcissistic egoists? The youth in the book worries about this exact thing. He calls it a philosophy of isolation. You know, I'll do me, you do you, and never the twain shall meet.
That is the danger of stopping halfway through the philosophy. Separation of tasks is just the starting point. It's about clearing the wreckage of unhealthy relationships. But the goal isn't isolation. The ultimate goal is what Adler calls community feeling.
This is the part of the book that got a little metaphysical for me. Can you break down community feeling in a more grounded way?
I can try. It's the answer to that egoism charge. Adler says the problem with people who are obsessed with getting approval, people who have stage fright, or who are constantly checking their likes on social media, is that they are actually profoundly self-obsessed.
With the people pleasers, the ones always worrying about others, are self-obsessed. That seems backward.
Think about what they're really thinking. They're thinking, what do they think of me? Do they like me? How am I coming across? They're the protagonist of their own movie, and everyone else is just an extra or a camera. They are constantly looking at themselves through other people's eyes. That is the definition of self-interest.
Okay, so what's the shift?
The shift is to social interest. It's about switching the camera angle from selfie mode to panoramic. You have to realize you are not the center of the world. You are just one part of a vast community. And that community includes everything: past generations, future generations, nature, even inanimate objects. And to feel like you truly belong in that community, you can't just wait for it to love you. You have to contribute to it.
Contribution is the key.
It is, and this fundamentally changes how we treat people. It brings us to this fascinating difference between vertical and horizontal relationships.
This was so surprising to me. The book argues that we should never, ever praise people. No, good job. No, you're so smart.
Sounds crazy on the surface. Who doesn't like getting a compliment? But think about the power dynamic of praise. If I say good job to you after you've done something, where am I standing in relation to you?
You're standing above me. You're in the position of a judge. A teacher praises a student. A master praises their dog.
Exactly. Praise is a tool of a vertical relationship. It creates and reinforces hierarchy. And it creates dependency. If I praise you every time you do well, you start acting in order to get the praise. You become a praise junkie, always looking for that external validation.
So what's the alternative? Just silence.
Encouragement. In a horizontal relationship where we see each other as equals, as comrades, we don't judge. We express gratitude and we acknowledge contribution. Instead of good job, you say thank you, or that was really helpful, or simply, I'm glad you're here.
It seems like a subtle semantic shift, but the feeling is totally different, isn't it? Good job feels like a pat on the head. Thank you feels like a handshake between equals.
It's a huge difference. Praise focuses on the act. Was it done well? Encouragement focuses on the person, the fact that you contributed. Adler says we feel courage only when we feel we have worth, and we feel a sense of worth only when we feel we are useful to the community. Encouragement fosters that feeling.
And we can be useful just by existing, right? We don't have to be high achievers or save the world.
This is the level of being versus the level of acts. It's so critical. If you judge your self-worth by your acts, your sales figures, your grades, your promotions, your worth is fundamentally unstable. What happens if you get sick and can't work? What happens when you retire?
Your worth plummets to zero. You become worthless.
Right. But if you can accept yourself on the level of being, you realize that just by being here, just by existing, you have value to someone. Think of a sick family member in the hospital. They aren't doing anything. They're not being productive. But just them being alive matters immensely to you. We need to learn to view ourselves with that same grace.
That feels like a good place to pivot to the final night of the dialogue in the book. This whole concept of living in the here and now.
This is where the philosopher really tries to cure the youth's anxiety about the future. And he starts by distinguishing between self-affirmation and self-acceptance.
Right, self-affirmation is the fake it till you make it stuff. Standing in the mirror and yelling, I am a tiger, even when you feel like a scared kitten.
Exactly. It's basically lying to yourself. If you got a 60% on a test, self-affirmation is saying, I'm actually a genius, I just had a bad day. Self-acceptance, on the other hand, says, I got a 60%. That is the reality of this me right now. It's not great, but it's where I am. Now, what can I do to get to 61%?
It's the serenity prayer, really. Accepting the things you cannot change.
And a huge part of that acceptance is accepting that life is not a mountain climb.
The kinetic versus the energial view of life.
Most of us are raised with the kinetic view. Life is a line. We start at the bottom and we're trying to reach the summit, which represents success or retirement or whatever. The whole climb, our entire lives, is just a preliminary period. It's suffering we have to endure to get to the good part at the top.
But the problem with that is that most of us spend our entire lives just climbing. We never feel like we've arrived.
And if you die halfway up the mountain, does that mean your entire life was a failure? Adler proposes the energial view instead. Life is a dance.
I love this image so much.
When you dance, the goal isn't to get to the other side of the room. The goal is to dance. The movement itself is the point. If you are dancing, you have already arrived. You are complete in that very moment.
So life isn't a line, it's a series of dots, a series of nows.
Yes. The philosopher says to imagine shining a very bright spotlight on the here and now. If you do that, you can't see the past behind you and you can't see the future ahead of you. The light is just too bright. We use the past and the future as excuses to avoid living earnestly right now. I'll start my life when I graduate, or I can't enjoy today because of what happened to me yesterday.
Stop looking to the horizon. Just look down at your feet and dance right now.
That's it. That's the whole practice.
But then, and this is the big existential dread question that the youth finally asks.
Yeah.
What is the meaning of life? If there's no summit, no final destination, then what's the point of it all?
And the philosopher is brutally blunt. He says, life in general has no meaning.
Ouch. That's a little bleak.
It can feel that way, but he follows it up immediately. Life in general has no meaning, but you are the one who assigns meaning to it. You are the author of your own life story. And to keep you from getting lost in that terrifying freedom, he offers one guiding star to navigate by.
Contribution to others.
Right. If you are always guided by a desire to contribute, if you have that community feeling, you can do whatever you want. You can dance wherever you want. You won't lose your way because your guiding star will always be visible.
It's such a complete restructuring of the mind. We've gone from a recluse who is afraid to leave his room all the way to a philosophy of absolute freedom, courage, and selfless contribution.
It is massive. And I should probably warn you, our listener, the philosopher admits this isn't some overnight fix. He has a rule of thumb. He says it takes half the number of years you've lived to fully internalize and master this psychology.
You know, if I'm 30 years old, I've got 15 years of practice ahead of me.
It's a practice, not a pill. But the good news is you can start changing the view, changing the glasses you're wearing right now in this moment.
So let's wrap this entire deep dive up with the concept the book calls the greatest life lie.
The greatest lie of all is believing that you are controlled by your past or by your future. It is using trauma as a justification or worry as an excuse to avoid the intense responsibility of living in this specific moment.
It's about looking at all your relationships, your job, your frustrations, and asking that one final provocative question. Whose cards am I holding?
Are you trying to play someone else's hand? Are you waiting for them to play yours for you? Or are you willing to separate the tasks, drop the need for everyone's approval, and just dance?
Put down their cards, pick up your own, and find the courage to be disliked. Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll see you next time.